Hello and happy Wednesday. Welcome back to Digital Thinkers Hexagon Hacks. My name is Rebecca Schofstall and I will be facilitating today's session. So hard to believe that we're already into October. But if you are joining us for the first time, just a quick overview of what to expect with Hexagon Hacks. So we do hold a session each Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern, and it's an opportunity for the Digital Thinker team to share tips, maybe some features or shortcuts, best practices, just miscellaneous information. Sometimes I will be hosting the session. Later on this month, we have other consultants that will be hopping on to share with you. And last month, so for the month of September, we focused on materials and inventory insights. So be sure to check out the playlist on our YouTube channel if you missed any of those. So all of the recordings are available. And this month, we're going to be focusing on maintenance mastery. So topics that involve equipment, work, preventive maintenance, and so forth. And then next month, we'll dive into some system admin hacks and then wrap up the year with mobile and field productivity. So, for today's topic, I'm excited to share with you the difference between PM schedules and maintenance patterns in Hexagon EAM. A lot of us are familiar with PM schedules, but I tend to see that maintenance patterns aren't utilized as much. So we just wanted to take a moment to just provide an overview of both of the preventive maintenance options in terms of planning for those, routine plan maintenance that are based on time or usage. And we're not going to dive into the actual setup per se. We don't have enough time for that, but just keep in mind that on our YouTube channel, we do have other videos available that will take a deeper dive into the individual topics that we'll talk about today. But first, just an introduction to PM schedules and maintenance patterns. So preventive maintenance schedules in Hexagon EAM are structured plans that define when maintenance tasks should be performed on which assets. And planning this is to prevent failures and ultimately upkeep the maintenance to extend the equipment life cycle or lifespan. PM schedules can be time based, such as every 30 days, or usage based. And in EAM, when we refer to usage based, we're talking about meter based. So for instance, every 1,000 operating hours. The system allows for the automation of work order generation based on these PM schedules. So if it's time based, you can go in and generate the work orders. There's also alert management that can facilitate that. And then the usage based or meter based PMs are created once a meter reading is recorded to trigger the next preventive maintenance. So this just is ensuring that maintenance activities are, timely. By having a PM schedule, they're also going to be consistent and align with operational requirements. Now, maintenance patterns are very similar. So maintenance patterns in EAM define recurring sequences of maintenance activities that follow a progression over time. So these are often used to manage maybe more complex maintenance strategies where the tasks vary in scope or frequency, such as performing minor checks monthly and then a major overhaul annually. So by using maintenance patterns, which can be time or usage based, this allows you to streamline the planning of alternating preventive maintenance activities avoid any overlapping work, and align with regulatory compliance. Now, if you've been using EAM for a while, you've probably heard of PM nesting. I'm not going to get into PM nesting today because I tend to prefer using maintenance patterns in place of PM nesting. But if you're not familiar, PM nesting in Hexagon EAM is a feature used to manage, let's say, tiered PM schedules so that if you have a higher level PM, it will replace a lower level PM that's due at the same time. And PM nesting helps to prevent duplicate work orders so we're not performing redundant tasks. Let's talk about some practical use cases. These are just a couple of kind of straightforward examples just so we can take a look at the comparison. So PM schedules. Let's talk about an air filter replacement, such as replacing an HVAC air filter every 90 days, regardless of usage. Okay, so it's going to be based on time and it would be either 3 months or 90 days. And it's a simple, it's routine, it's consistent. Okay. Another example would be the lubrication of pumps. Let's say we need to lubricate the bearings every 500 operating hours. So this would be triggered based on runtime. So it would be based on that meter reading. And it's going to ensure that the wear components are maintained based on actual usage. Okay, so we're replacing an air filter every 90 days. We're lubricating the pumps every 500 operating hours. If we shift to maintenance patterns, some practical use cases. So one that's used a lot is fleet maintenance, such as with our vehicle maintenance, we have a rotation of maintenance activities. So an example would be we have an oil change every 5,000 miles, but maybe at 10,000 miles, it's not only the oil change, but we're also going to do a tire rotation. And then we want to implement a full service every 20,000 miles. So we would have an oil change at 5,000, a tire rotation and oil change at 10,000 miles, then another oil change at 5,000 miles later. And then when we went to the 20,000 miles of usage, we're going to do a full service. So these tasks are part of a rotating pattern of maintenance. So we can build out the pattern in EAM so that the system will know to generate the correct PM work order based on the time or usage. We see this a lot too with manufacturing equipment overhauls. So you might have a minor inspection every month. And then every 3 months, it's going to be a little bit more detailed. And then there's a full mechanical overhaul annually. We can build out that pattern, based on those time markers. And the pattern's going to ensure that each task occurs at the right time without duplicating the effort. So at this point in time, let me go ahead and jump into EAM just to point out, kind of how this information would be represented in EAM. So on the PM schedule screen, and the PM schedule and maintenance pattern screens are available from the work module under work order planning. So you're going to see PM schedules and maintenance patterns. This is just following one of the use cases. So changing the air filter every 90 days. Now you'll notice with PM schedules that we do have different types. And this just determines when the next PM work order is triggered. So because I have it set as variable, it's going to be based on the date that I close the preceding work order. If I had it on fixed, it's going to be based on the original due date. Okay. And then duplicate, it's just going to generate that work order, regardless of the status of the preceding work order. So it would just generate it every 90 days, and you could have multiple PM work orders open at any given time. So this one I want to do every 90 days. I go replace the filter. 90 days from the replacement, I want to replace the air filter again. Now your PM schedules have activities associated directly to the PM schedule. And this will copy over to the work order, and it's going to be the work order tied to, sorry, the activity tied to the PM work order. So it can include your trade, it can support task plans, material lists. You could even have it be for hired labor if you need to procure outside services to perform that activity. So the same information that you would see on a work order activity, you can set up on that PM schedule activity so it copies over to the work order. And in this particular example, I have a couple of HVACs, and you see that the due dates are today and Friday. Okay. Now, if I hop over to a maintenance pattern, so for our maintenance patterns, just like PM schedules, they can be based on time and or usage, and they can be set up to repeat. So the rotation will repeat. So once it meets the maximum sequence, it's going to start over. And then it could also be set up to execute once. Okay. So this one's going to be repeating, and you'll see with maintenance patterns, we have sequences. And you can still associate your task plan information, your activity information to the maintenance pattern, but it's done via a standard work order. So my standard work order would detail the maintenance activity for the 5,000 miles, the 10,000 mile maintenance, our oil change, and then our complete inspection, and you'll see here the intervals. So 5,000, we're going to do oil change. Then we're going to do oil change and maintenance and tire rotation. Then our oil change until we get up to a cumulative 20,000 miles of usage. Okay. Individual pieces of equipment can be at different sequences within the maintenance pattern. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Now, I want to be mindful of the time that we have remaining. So you can use the generate work order screen or the release individual PM work order screens to release maintenance patterns and PM schedules. So on the generate work order screen, there is a section related to maintenance patterns. So this may be something that you haven't paid much attention to in the past. But essentially, it's going to work just how it does for PM schedules, okay? Where you could come out here and essentially select which PM work orders you want to generate. Now, I do have an example here for maintenance pattern, that's based on a date, but keep in mind with our meter-based PMs, those work orders will be released, when a meter reading is recorded that triggers the next PM work order. So if I wanted to, I could go ahead and generate these. And just how we've seen for our PM schedules, if you happen to go to the work order screen, there are fields available that represent the maintenance pattern information. Okay, so we could always reference which maintenance pattern triggered this work order, and then the same is true for the PM code. Now, I know this may be a lot of information to absorb, but just want to highlight some misunderstandings with maintenance patterns. Some people are like, oh, they're simply grouped PMs. Well, really, they're separate. The patterns define sequences, and logic, not just a grouping. So it helps to support those alternating schedules and reduce duplication. You can control the maintenance order and frequency, so you can have equipment at different sequences in the pattern. Your All equipment associated with a maintenance pattern must be in the same sequence. That's not true. Okay, that's a misunderstanding. Maintenance patterns are too complex to maintain. Properly configured patterns reduce the long-term efforts, and some anomalies that we tend to see with PM nesting. And they're used for more than just fleet and vehicle maintenance. Okay, so anything that has a rotating uh, pattern of maintenance or tiered PMs, machinery, pumps, HVAC, it's not just used for fleet or vehicle maintenance. And another misunderstanding is that you cannot use task plan, checklists, or routes. Yes, you can. It's just the difference is the activity is not set up directly on the maintenance pattern. It's done via the standard work orders. Okay. So I definitely would encourage you to explore both options and utilize both options based on your preventive maintenance needs. A general guideline is use PM schedules when tasks are standalone and consistent, and then maybe consider implementing maintenance patterns when tasks are linked or they vary in frequency or perhaps build on each other. So I will stick around if you have any questions. Feel free to put those in the meeting chat. We will publish a recording of this video to YouTube, so be on the lookout for that. And definitely join us next week as we continue our maintenance mastery series. And we'll be able to learn from some other members of the Digital Thinker team. And as always, please reach out to us if you have any questions. We're more than happy to help you. But I'll stick around if there's any questions. Otherwise, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your Wednesday. Thank you.